Welcome to the Kerri Lane Show. I'm Kerri Lane. Hey, lots to get to today, including the corruption of Judge Boasberg. He's the one that is ordering President Trump to halt the deportation of all violent criminals. Wait until you hear what Representative Jim Jordan just uncovered about this activist judge. It could change everything. Plus, Attorney General Pam Bondi and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, they continue to spar over the mounting threats that Elon Musk and Tesla are facing. But first, Kash Patel coming up with a big win for the country. Watch this.
This shows what the men and women of the FBI can do when they have leadership. The FBI has arrested and brought to justice, thanks to the Department of Justice and Pam Bondi, 3 top 10 of the FBI's most wanted. Let me just say that again. Not 1, not 2, but 3 of the FBI's most wanted top 10 are now in custody.
So I want to walk you through what these 3 criminals are wanted for. First, Francisco Javier Roman Bardales. He is a suspected MS-13 key senior leader. Now, he is wanted for his alleged role in ordering violence against civilians and drug distribution schemes in the U.S. and El Salvador. He is now in prison. Next is Analdo Jimenez, who is pending extradition to the United States for first-degree murder charges in Illinois, plus unlawful flight to avoid prosecution, meaning he tried to flee. And finally, Donald Eugene Fields II was arrested just 5 days after President Trump took office and has been on the FBI's most wanted list since May of 2023. He is wanted for child sex trafficking and child rape in St. Louis. Now, thanks to the hard work of Kash Patel and Pam Bondi, these men can no longer hurt anyone. Someone else looking to uphold the law is Tom Homan. Watch as ABC expresses concern over the criminals that Homan is trying to deport.
What we've heard from lawyers representing some of these people is that they deny that they're members of this gang, or either Tren de Aragua or MS-13. Do they get a chance to prove that before you take them out of the country and put them into a notorious prison in a country that they're not even from? I mean, do they have any due process at all?
Confident. Look, due process. Where was Lake and Ronnie's due process? Where were all these young women that were killed and raped by members of TDA? Where was their due process?
Well, the people that did that should be prosecuted.
Alive on a subway. Where's her due process?
Well, sure.
The bottom line is that plane was full of people designated as terrorists. Number one. Number two, every Venezuelan migrant on that flight was a TDA member based on numerous criminal investigations, on intelligence reports, and a lot of work by ICE officers.
The only conclusion you can really draw from this right now is that the left thinks the entire law enforcement community involved in these deportations is incompetent. Democrats are trying to make the case that ICE is just rounding up anyone and everyone without doing a proper investigation into each arrest. And here's the thing, whether they committed a violent crime or not, the fact that they're in our country illegally is technically enough to deport them.
Matter of fact, 2 days after that flight took off, I even had a discussion with the acting director of ICE, and he reiterated that every Venezuelan on that plane was a known member of the TDA. So a lot of officers, a lot of criminal investigators, special agents who've done this for decades, looked at the intelligence information, the criminal investigation information, all the various social media and surveillance and government records and public records, and they are confident that they're all members of the TDA. And I'm not surprised that a member of the family saying they're not a member of the TDA.
So you have an activist judge who is blocking the deportation of these criminals and is still refusing to lift his order. Now, the judge continues to argue that Trump's use of the Alien Enemies Act violates due process. He is further saying the hundreds detained under the act must now receive individualized hearings before they can be removed. Is this the American tax dollars being well spent when every single one of these individuals is deemed dangerous and entered our country unlawfully?
You said, I quote, "I don't care what judges think." Now, I know you have since said that the administration will abide by court orders. We heard Donald Trump say the same thing. So what do you mean when you say, "I don't care what judges think"?
No, I don't care what that judges think as far as this case. We're going to continue to arrest public safety threats and national security threats. We're going to continue to deport them from the United States. I understand this case is in litigation through the Alien Enemies Act, and we'll abide by the court order as litigated. But my quote was, despite what he thinks, we're going to keep targeting the worst of the worst, which we've been doing since day one, in deporting from the United States, to the various laws on the books. We're not making this up. The Alien Enemies Act was actually a federal law. It's a statute enacted by Congress and signed by a president. Now, that's under litigation. But put that aside, we still have Title VIII authority to remove illegal aliens from the United States, and we're going to continue to concentrate on those who are the biggest threat to our communities, the public safety threats.
Now, here's the interesting twist. This judge, Judge Boasberg, is the same judge who claimed that J6 defendants deserved harsher charges and actually called for new laws to be written to punish them under. He is also the judge who was involved in granting warrants that allowed Comey's FBI to spy on President Trump's campaign over the whole Russia collusion hoax.
I think the president, with his order on these gang members, sending him back or sending him to El Salvador, I think constitutionally is on solid ground. Article 2, Section 1, first sentence, executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States. Statutorily, the Alien Enemies Act, predatory incursion, that's certainly what this was. Gang members coming here illegally doing terrible things. And then finally, you got this judge saying this crazy decision, turn the plane around, bring the bad guys back to America. That makes no sense. So when you look at all that, coupled with this judge's history with the FISA court, with the sentence he gave to Kleinsmith, the lawyer, Kevin Kleinsmith, who altered the document in front of the FISA court, it really starts to look like Judge Boasberg is operating purely political against the president. And that's what we want to have hearings on, this broad issue and some of what Judge Boasberg is doing. And so we're going to start those next week, and we think Senator Grassley is going to do the same.
President Trump, he held a cabinet meeting this morning, and Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, she had this update on the border.
Sir, this last week I was in Arizona, California, Alaska, and Florida, and CBP literally has almost 100% operational control of the border, which means that our country is secure and that we know who's coming into this country and that they love our country and they want to help keep it great into the future. We are, in the month of March, the last couple of weeks, increased our deportations by 50%. So we're now not even just getting the worst of the worst out. We're making sure that there's consequences for being here and committing crimes in our communities.
Let me take those statistics one step further, because under President Trump, 394 members of the TDA gang have been arrested. That number speaks volumes about the severity of the border crisis under Biden. But finally, we have an administration that not only claims the border is closed, but also takes actions to support that claim. And what do you know? No legislative action has been taken by the president to address this, all despite Joe Biden insisting that he couldn't do it without the help of Congress. Meanwhile, Attorney General Pam Bondi, she issued a serious warning to Jasmine Crockett for contributing to the violent rhetoric surrounding Elon Musk and Tesla. Just hours after that warning, Jasmine took to MSNBC and said this.
Just in case the slow people listening decide to clip this up later, I just want to say that I have never promoted violence whatsoever, yet I've also never made excuse for those violent actors such as the ones on January 6th. So Pam Bondi, if you have an issue with terrorism, maybe you should talk to your boss about locking back up those guys that he let out that participated in January 6th.
So the warning from Pam Bondi, that didn't just come out of nowhere. She was responding to this statement Jasmine made just a few days ago.
I am truly here for very selfish reasons. Starting with, on March 29th, it's my birthday. And all I want to see happen on my birthday is for Elon to be taken down. Yes.
So some may argue that this doesn't directly incite violence. But what we need to do is look at the broader context of it all. Perhaps Jasmine's words wouldn't carry as much weight if Tesla weren't being firebombed and vandalized across the nation. Maybe they wouldn't have seemed so significant if Tesla showrooms weren't being destroyed, or if employees and Tesla owners weren't facing harassment or even threats. But given the widespread violence tied to this issue, further fueling the rhetoric against Elon Musk is essentially inviting more hostility. Imagine if a Republican congressman or woman publicly called for the takedown of Nancy Pelosi while she was in lockdown at the Capitol on January 6th. You may speak those words today and face little immediate backlash, but say them while someone is actively under threat, and the impact is entirely different. Now, in this current situation with Tesla, We've seen not only Jasmine Crockett, but Tim Walz, late night show hosts, and several other Democrats condone the violence, which is ironic because they claim to be the party of peace.
This MAGA crowd is really the most extreme political organization that's existed in American history.
They are threatening political violence, and they are attacking our democracy.
These Republicans and others are creating an environment of political violence. They are putting Americans at risk.
Democrats have never endorsed political violence, but he will go to a rally and he will endorse it. This is the equivalent of playing with a loaded gun and then it backfiring on you.
Democrats have never endorsed violence? That is laughable. Which side is it that always seems to be the one under threat? Because just off the top of my head, I'm reminded of when Steve Scalise was shot, when President Trump faced 2 assassination attempts, and Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, he had a close call. And the list goes on and on. I'm also reminded of the left who seemed to side with the person responsible for taking the life of the United Healthcare CEO. Now here's the warning from Pam Bondi that was issued to Jasmine Crockett.
And people need to know that 3 people in custody right now, they will receive severe and swift consequences, and they are facing up to 20 years in prison. We are not negotiating these. We are not coming off these charges. We are looking at everything, especially if this is a concerted effort. This is domestic terrorism. And Maria, now you have this Congresswoman Crockett who is calling for attacks on Elon Musk on her birthday. Let's take him out on my birthday, she says. Yet she turns and says, oh, I'm not calling for violence. Well, she is an elected public official. And so she needs to tread very carefully because nothing will happen to Elon Musk. And we're going to fight to protect all of the Tesla owners throughout this country. And it's this basic safety. Once again, domestic terrorism is going to come to a stop in our country.
I must say, one concern that I have with Pam Bondi here is that it's been 30 days and they only have 3 people in custody. Based on the videos that I'm seeing online, that number should be drastically higher. So hopefully they are working quickly to ensure that all those involved in these acts of violence pay the consequences of their actions. Now, coming up next is a video of Tim Walz celebrating the downfall of Tesla, but the ironic part is he doesn't even realize that this would drastically hurt his fellow Minnesotans. I explain. Plus, wait until you see the fiery exchange on CNN, probably one of the most explosive ones I've seen in a really long time. Scott Jennings comes unhinged on a Democratic contributor. All you have to do is click on that video that you see now on your screen. Have a great rest of your day, and thanks for stopping by.